I thought the first ECW game was a little disappointing. It didn't feel like an ECW game because it was just a reskin of WWF Attitude. The second ECW game, Anarchy Rulz, uses the same engine as WWF Attitude, ECW Hardcore Revolution, and also WWF Warzone. It was modified a little bit, and the game is closer to what ECW was. I can't really tell how they modified it because it still feels like the same game. Because this game was made in the 1990s, and this was a weird period where we thought adding Z to the end of words was cool. That's what happened with Anarchy Rulz. The only thing that would have made this worse is if they had spelled extreme XTREME instead of, the way it's supposed to be spelled. The 90s were weird. I don't know why, but yeah, they were just really weird. Much like the other games that use the same engine, this can be a bit of a slog to get through. It's very much like Hardcore Revolution and WWF Attitude. You have to work your way up through the ranks, and it can be a major pain in the ass to do that. Just because it takes so goddamn long to do it. And yeah, it's really not that much fun to play. Anyway, let's get into it. Once again, there's no real story. You just go through the career mode, and you have to kind of make things up as you go. There is also a stable mode that you can go through, so you create a group of 4 wrestlers, and you go through a career mode like that. So, yeah, you can ruin the careers of 4 wrestlers instead of 1. That's kind of interesting. So, Anarchy Rulz feels a lot more like an ECW game, mostly because they added more stipulation matches. The blood is a little bit better, but still weird, and I'll talk about that when I get into the graphics. Unfortunately, I was kind of struggling with the controls on this one early on. It's the same as Hardcore Revolution and Attitude and also Warzone, but it just kind of felt off here, especially when I first started playing. Once I changed to some different wrestlers, then I found one that worked for me. I think maybe it was just me using a wrestler I probably shouldn't have started off with. It just felt like everything in the game got countered, to the point where it was just getting ridiculous. Like, I would type in the buttons for a move, and my opponent would immediately counter it. It got really annoying while I was playing through this whole thing. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff you can do in this. You can have a 1-on-1 match, a tag team match, a tornado match, a 1-on-2, 1-on-3, a lumberjack match, a 3-way dance, a 4-way dance, a battle royal, something called a hate match that I was just not interested in playing. Then you can have the team rumble and then the stable matches. So there's a lot going on here, and you can also have a match where they replace the ring ropes with barbed wire. That was not as much fun as I thought it would be. It was just another way for the AI to beat the crap out of me in this one. It looked kind of interesting, but it really wasn't all that great. It acted a lot like the cage matches in some of the earlier games that I played, where if you just throw somebody into the cage, it hurts them. That was really the only difference. The biggest issue I had with this was the moves just not really working when you think they should, or the instructions not being as clear as they needed to be. You'll see the button presses when you open up the menu to pick what moves you want to try to do, and sometimes the moves just don't happen. It's very weird. Or they'll immediately get countered by the enemy. It just got really frustrating when you were trying to do this, because you can see what the controls are, you can perform those, and then the move just doesn't happen, or the opponent moves out of the way so you're not close enough to grab them, or something like that. It makes the game a little bit more frustrating to play. I understand why they did it that way, but it's still really annoying. I do think the gameplay is okay for what it is. It isn't that much different from Attitude and Hardcore Revolution. I think in some ways it's better than Hardcore Revolution, but it's still hamstrung by this game engine that just isn't very good and got replaced by something much better. Anarchy Rulz is a decent looking game. I really can't tell if it's an improvement over the graphics of WWF Attitude or Hardcore Revolution overall. It just seems to have more blood in it, and the blood doesn't really look all that bad. It's a little awkward when all of a sudden there's a wound on somebody's back and you haven't been working their back at all, but at least that's there, so it kind of fits more with what ECW was. Just some of the bleeding spots in this look very, very awkward. The cuts just appear on wrestlers. Sometimes they make sense, like if you keep punching somebody in the face, they might get busted open. Other times it's like, did I stab him in the gut with a frickin' broken beer bottle or something? Why is he bleeding from right there? Or why is there a random cut on his back? Or how did he cut his arm? That sort of thing. It was just very strange because I'm like, I don't remember stabbing this guy in the match. We weren't having a hardcore match and it wasn't the barbed wire ropes, so how did he get cut open? It was just really weird when I was playing it and all of a sudden the guy's bleeding to death in the middle of the ring. The ring and the crowd look decent, and I like the ring entrances here. It's not as good as when you would see in SmackDown where they have like the actual footage and then your character model walks out along with it. Or really that's it. It's just not as good as the SmackDown entrances. I think there's another WCW game that had these same ring entrances. I want to say it's Backstage Assault or either Thunder or Nitro. But at the moment, I can't really remember. And I'm sure if I look it up, I'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, the Electronic Arts WCW games do that as well. So seeing it here where it's all in-game graphics is pretty cool, but I don't think it's as good as when they have like the actual footage of the ring entrances or the ring entrance video along with the character model walking down. I think that looks pretty cool. There was one thing that kind of confused me, and that was just the scale of the weapons. You've seen it a few times when Justin Credible walks down to the ring and he's got his kendo stick. And I think it looks a lot bigger than what it's supposed to. It made me wonder if Justin Credible was only 5 feet tall or if the kendo stick was 8 feet long, because it looked much bigger than his character model in this. Oh, and then when you get to the ring, the weapons are just gone. Like, he brought it down and then the weapon has just disappeared. Like, he, I don't know, gave it to the ring announcer or something, and they were like, yeah, we'll hold on to this so you don't use it in the match. I mean, this is ECW. I mean, isn't he supposed to do that? I thought like every match was like no DQ or something like that. If you watched ECW, please let me know. I just thought it looked a little weird that he brings this weapon down to the ring and then it's just gone forever. I think some of the stipulation matches look pretty good. You know, the cage looks alright. The barbed wire rings, they kind of look okay, but I don't know. I think they could have been better in some ways. Granted, the ring ropes themselves look really stiff to begin with, so that doesn't really work too well for the ring ropes, but it works well for like the barbed wire ropes. It's a weird thing to really go into. Just because the barbed wire doesn't have any give to it because they're just like a palette swap of the ring ropes. So when you get thrown into them, you don't really do anything, you just kind of stick to it. And that's a little annoying to me. I would have thought like the barbed wire would have more give to it or something like that. I think this is a good looking game for, you know, late 1990s, early 2000s. The use of blood still looks pretty awkward, but I think they did a somewhat better job with it than they did with Hardcore Revolution. I guess this is just how they figured out how to do it back then. There'll be a little puddles of blood on the ground, and then just a wound will appear on either your body or on your opponent. So I can't really complain about it too much, even though I do think it is a little awkward. Overall, I think this is an improvement from ECW Hardcore Revolution, but it still has the same issues as that game and the other games that are based on the Warzone engine. So, yeah, you could copy and paste what I'm going to say about it from WWF Attitude, from ECW Hardcore Revolution, and from WWF Warzone. Opening up a menu to see what moves you can do is annoying. The campaign mode is just really tedious to go through, and yeah, there's a bit of a learning curve with it that isn't there with a lot of other games, and the controls can at times be a little bit unresponsive. There's a lot of problems with this quadrilogy of games that use the same engine, but yeah, it's got the same strength and weaknesses as those games. I do like it a little bit more than Hardcore Revolution because it really feels like an ECW game, even though the developers still had their limits and they couldn't make it the actual ECW experience. The roster is also kind of held back because of what ECW was at this time. A lot of their more prominent names had basically jumped ship, the company was going under, and they were just having a lot of issues, so I can forgive the roster there. I think it can be a fun game, but I still like, Attitude and Warzone more than this one. And then I still like the SmackDown games more than these, and there are a few WCW games that I like more. I would rather go back and play WCW vs. the World or WCW Mayhem than play this one. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.